I am a temple who walks the earth. My womb is fertile for giving birth. I am a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. You are the form of who you want to be. So come untethered, your soul is free. We're here to heal, we're here to thrive. We are a dream who's come alive. We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake. A revelation for God's sake. An evolution for God's sake. An inspiration for God's sake. 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 For God's sake.
And so it is. Hello, Essence. This is Jody England, and you are listening to Wild Soul Medicine Radio. So as we drop in today, we are in the midst of some fairly intense cosmic energies. I don't even want to say fairly. Really, they are the most intense cosmic energies I've ever experienced. And as I've mentioned before, I tend to not navigate my life by astrology, but I do check it when things occur. I like it as confirmation. So I lead by energy, and then, if I want or need confirmation or more information, I can get that from the cosmology. And this one has been like, there's no opportunity to not be paying attention to it. It's really kind of front and center. And so I'm going through motions and I'm doing things that are, that are part of my regular life. And then there's this like intensity to the energy that's occurring. And it seems to be occurring for all of us. I don't actually think any of us are going to be able to sidestep this one, because it is, from what I'm reading and experiencing, it feels like this is a giant portal. And even if you're listening to this as a recording 6 months from now or a year from now, I feel like, there are many levels to this, this work, this call, this transmission. And, there's always an in-between space. There's always the, that we've talked about that before, this place in between, like I know this place and then I know that place. And in transformation, it sort of feels like we live our lives in the space in between. And yet the place that we are right now is really actually one giant leap for mankind, for real. And we're getting some divine assistance from many realms. And it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to be incarnated, and also intense. Let's just call it intense. And what I find is that when I'm experiencing something, the first thing I like to do is just be with it. And sometimes being with it means being in silence, and sometimes it means naming it and talking about it and getting really specific about, really what is happening, and then what's the theme of that, and what's the theme of that, so that I can start to, really just hone in on what is the experience. And what I find is that often as I'm honing in on that and becoming more aware, that in itself actually lessens the symptoms or creates room for movement. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm just going to be naming what it looks like in my experience, and hopefully that will open some portals for you to begin to understand what may be happening in your experience that you have been labeling as, your problem or your like shaming yourself around, like, can't believe this thing is happening or that drama occurred or whatever. And this is not about absolving us of self-responsibility, but really just about understanding and locating ourselves in the scheme of the bigger alignments that are occurring in and around us. And so I feel like I also just want to name, because I can maybe hear it on the feedback. So I have my big doors open right here by where I broadcast the radio show. And I did that on purpose. I know you may hear some nature sounds, and actually that feels important. And that's part of what's been helping me through this period. And I'm going to talk some more about that later. So we have Mother Nature actually holding us and being with us here on the call today too. And it feels really good in my system to just have that place where I can sort of discharge some of this energy as it's moving through today. So that's happening as well. So hello. So let's just take a moment. Let's take a moment together and see if we can drop in. See if we can drop in, because I can feel the jangliness in my system and in the collective system. And it's almost like this gnashing of teeth, like it's like a gritting of the most tense place in the back of the jaw. And so let's just see if we could take a few breaths together. We could just take a few breaths together, allowing ourselves to really just be here, just be with whatever uncomfortable, jittery feelings might be happening in your space. Noticing the places in your nervous system that might feel pinched or contracted or irritable. Depending on what your system does with irritability, it might feel like it's about to strike or that it would like to strike. Or it might feel like it's kind of frozen or locked up. Or it may be just really hard to be down and in with it, And so whatever's occurring, just allow that to be so. Allow that to be so. Yeah, good. Good. And you may actually even just put a hand on each of your thighs and kind of give your thighs a stroke or give them a pat so that you can let your body know that actually you're safe and it's here and you're here with it. Yep. And these are just some energies that are moving through, and energy doesn't kill us. It doesn't hurt us. It's just a thing. Yep. Good. And I encourage you to feel free as you're listening to this show to move your body whenever and if ever you feel called to do so. Because there's a lot moving through in general, and then we're creating this potent portal of more moving through. And so my sense is that as those of us listening discharge some of this energy, it actually helps the collective as well. So we'll kind of imagine ourselves as lightning rods for this divination that's occurring, and then we can just let it flow through us and then ground it out. Flow through, ground it out. So if you feel called to strike a certain yoga pose or go put your feet on the ground or your butt on the ground while you're listening, we certainly welcome that. Yeah. Okay, so what is happening? Gosh, what is happening? So it was interesting today as I was feeling into the show. I woke up kind of cranky, which is what I've been feeling off and on. And it's this really interesting mix of almost like simultaneous. There's this underlying feeling of love and light and well-being. And, this definite sense of peace, like, everything is good and I am good. And then sometimes like on the heels of that, and sometimes kind of even over top of it, or like simultaneously, there's a feeling of, oh my gosh, this is so annoying. And like last night, I was on my way to sleep, and it's like my clothes were just irritating me. And so I took my underwear off, and then I was still feeling irritated by my nightgown. I took my nightgown off, and then it was like, okay, the sheets are soft. I can deal with the sheets, And then I woke up a couple hours later, like, oh my gosh, I need a nightgown on. And so I put the nightgown back on, and I just felt like that was so indicative of what these energies are like is, in some ways, they're foreign and familiar, and also like, what is it? It's like, it's this interesting mix for me of, it really feels like trying to find a gear, you know? So it's like, you know what first gear feels like, and you know what second gear feels like. But you know when you're riding your bike and like the pedals are spinning too fast, and then you try to switch gears, but it jumps the gear, and then it's like, you know, it's trying to actually lock in again. That's what it feels like to me. And it feels like that planetary wide, where there's so much density in the old vibration, and then there's so much light in this new one. And it's kind of like the way the planets are aligning and the portals are opening, it's sort of like a combination to a safe that's actually lining up, where the tumblers are coming into a certain alignment that will allow this higher vibration to make its way down and through. And it looks like it'll sort of melt the old vibration. And in the meantime, you know, we have this sense of the tumblers moving into place, and we're in the density, and we yearn for the higher. And so there's just a lot going on in our systems. And I trust that this is the process that it needs to come through, you know, that we couldn't just be zapped for it or zapped with it, that really it's like there's a way that our systems are being prepared for the melting away. And so this dissonance actually is sort of aligning up our own tumblers within our own systems to say, there. So it feels like a relief rather than something foreign or scary when it actually happens. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I did post I've read many articles about it, but one of my favorites I posted over on our chat page. It's www.wsmrchat.com, wsmrchat.com. And this particular one I really liked because it was naming the portals, the tumblers, if you will, that are aligning throughout the month of September. And so we've already passed through several of them. I talked about a couple of them last week. You know, we had a partial solar eclipse, and that was pretty awesome. And we've had several other pieces that have occurred along the way, but the upcoming ones, you know, sort of like we're building. So we've been building through a whole cycle since April of last year, and then September itself is actually building as well. So we just had the partial solar eclipse on the 13th, which was 3 days ago. And on September 17th, which is tomorrow, Mercury goes retrograde. And then there are some planetary shifts that are actually occurring that won't happen again for another 28, 29 years. September 23rd, which happens to be my parents' anniversary, the ones that I just stepped out of relationship with. Their anniversary is on the 23rd, and that is on the equinox, which signifies the end of summer and the start of autumn. So a new season, a new theme, a new light pattern. And then that leads up to, on September 28th, there is a climax of all of this. And there's a blood moon, and on the blood moon, a total lunar eclipse, right? So that's pretty potent. And here's the thing. This is why I just love to hear confirmations of these things. So on the 28th, blood moon, total lunar eclipse, in the sign of Aries. I'm an Aries, which Aries is the first sign of the zodiac and represents beginnings and a new direction. And the pinnacle of this particular energetic on the 28th occurs at 11:11 a.m. And I am an 11. I was born on the 11th, right? So it's literally like all of my stars are aligning. And I have no idea what it means. I really don't. You know, when my husband and I read that the other day, because this particular article also talks about ascension and that there is a huge up level of consciousness that's happening in this particular download, upload and that there may be beings who have been kind of on the edge, who suddenly can wake up or do wake up, and people who are already awake who may be ascending. And I've actually seen that this week with some really beautiful beings that I'm connected to who did ascend, right? Like died and left. And, and I want to just speak to that for a moment, because I think, when we start to hear things like that, our ego wants to attach and be like, the world is, it's Armageddon, the world is ending, or bad things might happen, or can we really do this? And, and actually, from the cosmic point of view, ascending is a beautiful thing, and winking out of a life is not a big deal at all. And the people who've been doing that I'm connected with are people who are, they're old souls, they're very wise, and to them, they know that you can come back many, many times, and they've been here many, many times. And so, whether they stay this particular go round or this particular moment is sort of inconsequential for them, and along those lines, well, actually, let me back up to that. So this idea of ascension, there's a lot of misnomers about what it means. Like you've figured it all out, and so you get to go, right? Or you were so good, you're like Jesus, and then you get to go up and away. And ascension just means rising, right? It just means rising. So we're having rising energy, and we're having some souls that will rise up to where they came from, and that's medicine, right? Sometimes the ascension is medicine for those who are connected with them. So in my experience, these people who are leaving, what I've noticed is a reaction, even among really enlightened people, saying things like, oh, dark energies, must have taken them away, or, they were taken before it was their time, or things like that. And what I feel like is it's medicine for those of us who were attached, right? So what they're showing us is there's no reason to be attached, because we're all going up, right? And it's all light. So this is an opportunity to move into freedom from these various attachments. And they're not just coming around death. I've had, many people that I'm connected to have been experiencing thefts of various sorts, like their house broken into and their prized possessions being stolen, or injuries or accidents, health being challenged, all kinds of letting go is being required. And, it's possible we may see some of that in our system, in our government and our banking systems. I can feel the volatility of some of those institutions kind of also becoming magnified. And, many of my beloved friends are deeply attached and connected to Harbin Hot Springs in California. And a wildfire just ravaged that place to the ground, literally like just razed it. And, there's been a lot of reaction to that. You hear this plane landing right over me. So the plane is landing like, oh, this is the institutional, like slow, dense sound that we're dealing with. But yeah, and I don't mean to make light of Harbin, because I know that it was a beloved sanctuary of healing. And at the same time, sisters, this is an awakening. We have to let go of that shit. We have to let go of the belief that a place has power, that we're not okay unless we go there. And, and of course, is grief okay? Yeah, we're grieving our old stuff. And our ego would love for things to stay the way they have been. And yet, in fact, I read a beautiful article that my friend Jess Johnson posted that was from a woman who was actually there when the fires happened. And they were there to have a discussion about a new way of creating these mobile communities where, travelers and highly conscious people who wanted to get together and create projects and things could actually have a network of places where they could go to have that experience, instead of having to just have a couple here or there where everyone goes. But what if we created a network of those? And so literally, as they come together about that, the hot springs catches on fire and they have to evacuate. And as they evacuated, they discovered how much of a need there is for just the thing they were there creating. And now they're on fire for creating it. I use that word intentionally, right? They are on fire for creating it. And, Kali Ma is my friend. She is my guide. She is my temple. And creation and destruction are right beside each other. They're right beside each other on the spectrum of what is. And so in order to create, we have to often destroy, and if we aren't willing to do the destroying, if we become too attached to say goodbye, then sometimes a force outside of us will come and do it for us. And it's always, always in service of the highest and best good. I don't subscribe to dark forces doing things that are outside of our control. Love and light always wins the day. And sometimes we say yes to dark forces unwittingly, subconsciously, because there's medicine in the dark force. But ultimately, we are always in the driver's seat of love and light. And so that is where we can rest. And as we rest in the love and light, we have to be willing to let go of love and light. We have to be willing to let go of our attachments, that things have to be a certain way, that we're only good if people get more conscious, that we're only good if the new vibration coming in raises us above where we are, right? Because that would necessarily have us avoiding the totality of this experience that we're in, which does involve light and dark. It's the yin and the yang. And so I feel like, because if there can be an attachment to like, oh my gosh, if we can just get in second gear, we are home free, right? When the bike wheels are spinning, you're just longing for a gear to click. But, then sometimes you need first gear. Sometimes you do. And so you have to be willing to downshift and be able to still find that gear, because there will be density and there will be more work to do and there will be more struggle and strife and collapse and all of those pieces, And so, it's a welcome addition to the system as we add more octaves of ease and grace and love and light and consciousness and freedom, right? That is a welcome addition. And really at the heart of those downloads is the understanding that it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. So right now, I think it feels particularly dissonant because we have this ingrained belief that there's the not good and the good, and we're longing for the good. But actually, when that quote good comes, what we're going to feel is that we always are and have been okay, right? We always are and always have been and will be because we're infinite and whole. So, what it's been looking like for me other ways is because it's funny. So as we're playing with this morning, like, what will the show be about? I was kind of like, meh, I'm kind of cranky and I don't really have anything to talk about. I could talk about this thing. I could talk about that thing. My husband's so cute. He just sits there and lets me process each morning, and he doesn't really feed into any of it. He just lets me, say what needs to come through. So, I can't remember how it came forward, but I started talking about, the thing that's really up in my system is this irritation because, I have just these couple women that are clients, that are in my programs who are reneging on their contract, right? They haven't done what they promised to do. They're being really flaky about it. They're out of integrity. It's causing me to have to expend energy to be with them and to negotiate their flakiness. And I feel frustrated by that. And so I was just telling him that kind of as an aside. And he said, well, that's the first thing you've said that has really any energy behind it. I think you should talk about that. And I was like, well, I don't want to make anyone feel bad. And, and so we started to say like, okay, well, what's the theme of that? Why is it annoying you? And it's annoying me because there's this gorgeous completion happening. So we're 2 weeks from the end of magic school, and literally the most breathtaking, soul-shaking miracle returns and arrivals and spaciousness and glory and rememberings and love fest and women standing in their truth and their power and becoming who they are. And like really, I mean, it couldn't be more beautiful what's occurring in that space. And so that's happening with this vast majority. And then there's like a couple, right? Then there's a couple who aren't doing that. And I'm feeling this dissension in my system around, my soul hurts for these women who aren't getting it. And I'm still attached to bringing them along and like having them see what they're not seeing and making sure they got the activation they paid for, even though they didn't complete the class. And in making sure that we stay in integrity and that I find the clear path and blah, 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 right? And it just feels very dense and like way too much effort. And so what I'm feeling in my system is, when and how do I let go of these women who I love, of these women who I root for, of these women who ought to know fucking better, right? And I haven't been able to find that gear, right? It's been clacking through my system, clack, 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 clack. And what's the theme of that? So the theme is exactly what's happening here. This cosmic, like, light and love and everyone getting it and moving to the higher levels. And then the clack, clack, clack of those who aren't getting it. And what is my role in bridging that threshold, So that's one place that it looks like. And, and I say that with an invitation to not attach to my story, but an invitation to look at what do you have story around? Where is a higher level calling you? And you're clacking around in some old thought form or some old pattern that has you treading water or, kind of cringing in your nervous system that I would be good except for this thing that keeps happening, So other things that are happening are there's this space of in-betweenness around. So I'm ending magic school, which has been a magnificent creation and experience. And then I have a new CEO who's come to work here. And at some point, I'll be sharing the story of what that all has looked like. And in the meantime, what I can share is she's brilliant and amazing. And she is a miracle in and of herself. Her presence, her gifts, her essence is just medicine for my soul and for Untamed You. And so she has stepped in and we've been creating. And there are some really fun soul offerings that are preparing to meet the world. And one of those is Soulful Money Medicine will be coming forward in, so we did it the live version, and then I knew she was coming in and some things happened. And so we've just been preparing for how do we then make that accessible to those of you who couldn't join us the first round but want to going forward. So those portals are being prepared. And there's a whole map, actually. There's a whole map of becoming that is being created to share the various paths that can be had within the work that we do. And there are certifications and there are, alchemy on every level. And I'm really excited about that coming forward, and none of it's done yet, And so it's like ending, beautiful possibility, and then space in between. And, and in a way I'm fine with the space in between with that, because it's not that it's all being held perfectly and it's all really moving fast. And at the same time, there's like, okay, but then where am I? Where am I in between? And what I feel is I really want to be pulled inward, like I want to just be internal. I don't really want to be talking to people. I don't want to be creating and, hashing out emails and, tending. I don't want to be tending anything except for myself. And so that's another place that I'm noticing that, that theme occurring. And then there's every kind of small place it's happening where my calendar on my phone won't update the calendar on my computer, which means that when Viv tries to schedule things for me, she can't actually see what my schedule is. And various technology things along that theme. And, that's just another version of like, why isn't there communication between this part and that part? Or how come the gears aren't meshing so that there's a synchrony in the system, And so that's super interesting. And So yesterday I finished my magic school call, and I had a lot of stuff I was supposed to do or should do related to these, upcoming portal openings and things. And my husband came in and said, "What would you like to do?" And I said, "I need to just go be. I need to go be quiet." And so we went outside and we laid by our pool and looked at the sky. And normally when we do that, we put music on, and we both just decided, no, we need quiet. What we actually need is quiet. And so we laid there and just enjoyed the sky, no thoughts. We talked a little, but mostly it was just, I don't even know if contemplation was the thing, because contemplation even seemed like too much. It was really just presence. And what I felt is that in that space, that's not why I went out there, but what was happening is I was literally discharging this. It kind of feels like a buildup of static electricity in my nervous system, and I could just feel that kind of offloading without having to do anything. It's kind of like when you have a buildup of static electricity and you touch a piece of wood first before you touch your car door, or you touch the wood of the door before you touch the handle so you don't get shocked. That's really what it felt like. When you do that, you're literally grounding, and that's what was happening with me outside. Is I just felt like I was grounding, and nothing was being offloaded or taken away. It was just this natural dispersion of energies that I don't need to be carrying in my system. So that happened. And then so there was peace for a little bit. And then my neighbor, we've been dying for them to cut these dead trees down that are right in our viewpoint of our beautiful lounging space. And so they started chainsawing them down right then. And it lasted the whole rest of the afternoon. It was so funny because Viv and I were on a call and we were trying to commiserate about the craziness of things that we've been experiencing. And in the background, there's like, this chainsaw. And we were both laughing because we're like, yeah, that chainsaw is what my nervous system feels like. So, it's not about, I don't believe that in this space, we're going to actually be able to find an extended period of peace. If you do, let us know. And also, it's really not about measuring it, but just as we start to name, like, okay, so I was feeling good, and then that happened, and now here's my nervous system again. In this moment, what I feel is talking about it is really helping. So just being present with, isn't it funny that this thing is happening, sort of has my ego come out of its leftover, like medieval worry that there's a boogeyman inside all of this, and are we really going to be okay? But as I'm talking about it, it's like, of course, it's just, our bodies are going through some experiences and our minds are making up some stories about it, and energies are moving through. And so it is, So let me just see if there's anything else I want to say about what it may look like for you. Oh yeah. So another piece I want to say is what I notice in my system is in that buildup of the static electricity charge, I notice myself reverting to an old pattern. And let me just see if this is true for everyone. Yeah, so it's an old pattern for all of us, and the pattern is doing. So what I experience is as the charge is building up, there's this subconscious urge to like, what do I need to do? Because when we have that anxious feeling, what we're used to doing is discharging it by creating something or making a drama in our lives or having an accident or, getting on someone who needs getting on or tending or poking or creating, and I feel like that's actually one of the pieces that is going to be getting an up level, an upgrade in this new download. And so I encourage you to notice in your system if what you've been trying to do with dealing with this energy is actually has been resorting to doing this. And what it feels like to me is that when we resort to the doingness, it really creates entanglements in this particular energy. And so it just becomes messier and messier and messier, right? Because you're trying to discharge your energy of doingness, and then the women or the people that you're engaged with are trying to discharge their doingness. And so then it really just escalates really quickly into some kind of a drama or a he said, she said, or a no-win for everyone. So what I'm discovering is that actually avoiding the doingness, becoming even more spacious than you normally would be, allowing yourself to pause, is a really great option right now. And because what I also get is the things that you would do now, even if they would work out, the things you would do now will be very different from what you would do in 2 weeks. So once this energetic makes its way all the way in, you're going to find that your options for interventions and actions and creations are going to be completely different. They're going to have a whole different opportunity available. So if you can put things off for a couple weeks, or whatever you can put off for a couple weeks, I highly suggest that. The other thing that's really been working for me is nature. And what you can feel is actually, if you put yourself out on the ground right now, what I notice is the earth is actually, she's thirsty for this new energy. It's almost like her cells are wide open. It's kind of like after you've exfoliated, your face, and then you put on your moisturizer and it just like soaks it right up. That's what it feels like to me, is that she is wide open. She's already receiving the download. She doesn't actually have the turbulence that needs to, she doesn't have the turbulence. The turbulence is like above her and the density field that's around her. And so I can feel her like opening up and reaching out to receive this. And it's partly why it feels so good to be in nature right now, especially good, because, she's open and receptive to it. And so not only is she a ground for the buildup of you, but it's like as you put yourself on her, remember we said we'll be the lightning rod. So it's like we're sort of purifying the density of the field. We're taking it in, we're running it through our systems, and then we put ourselves on the ground, and it's an immediate discharge because she's thirsty for that energy burning off so she can receive the new, And so, it kind of feels like I just had the image of somebody that's on a wilderness retreat, right? And then the plane comes in with the supplies and they're like, yes, we have some. And that's what it feels like with Pachamama right now, is she is thirsting for this new download. So she is always our friend and we her daughters. And it feels like she's really calling us to her bosom right now to say, come be with me as we wait a while. And so I'm definitely going to be doing that right after the show. I'm going to go put my body on the ground and underneath the sun. And I'm also finding a lot of comfort in my animals right now. I'm going to be riding my horse later, which always is a beautiful grounding experience for me as well. And, just kind of like tuning into the subtleties of how this download in some ways has already reached us and is reaching us, and is reaching parts of our experience. And so rather than focusing on the dissonance of the gears that are slipping, where are we already being met in our subtlety? Where are we being met in our subtlety? So let's feel that right now. Let's just feel that together. As you close your eyes and tune in, see if... okay. So here's what I'm getting is, what if it's not up to you to find the next gear? What if it's not up to you? What if the gear has already been found? And this once, just this once, you simply get to surrender and allow the new gear to come home, to make itself known, to begin driving your ship. And so, what's to be done? Letting go. Letting go, surrendering, laying back, relaxing. There is so much love surrounding us. I can just feel the veil is replete with guides and spirits who are here to help us, who are so lovingly tending this process. And we are in ever more capable hands than we could ever imagine from this side of the veil. And so, what I've been getting, and this has actually been happening, I always have vivid dreams, but this month particularly, it's been a month. It's been like 16 days of intense dreams. They're not even dreams. I'm being worked with. I'm being uploaded and integrated and informed and opened. And I'm learning about galactic cosmic theory and the nature of the universe. And my body is being changed and shifted and upgraded, and literally to the point that I know what has been, like, I wake up in the morning like, oh, my teeth don't move anymore. I don't have to wear my retainer. Oh, my belly and my intestines got upgraded, and actually I can eat bread now. There's these very interesting things that are happening, and it's a lot to keep up with. And in a way, it has also been intense. I've been joking with my husband that soon I will have to be wearing a tinfoil hat because it's been really hard to sleep. And, and so I'm just curious in this moment. There's a way that my system is a little fighting the amount of the downloads. And what I'm getting is asking them to slow down is not an option right now. It's not for me. You could ask for you, right? If asking the downloads to slow down is an option that serves, it may be available to some people. What I'm present for me is that with all of these stargates aligning, moving into Aries, the equinox, the blood moon, the eclipse, the 11/11, my date, that this is a big one for me. And I have no idea what it will look like. And I don't have the option of saying no to it. And so what else can I do then? What else can I do if you're being swept down the rapids of a fast moving river? There's really no amount of swimming that's going to change things. And so really it's just like surrender. I'm surrendering and floating, and I'm being taken where I need to be taken, to places where I already agreed I would go. That's the thing to remember. We're only being taken places we already agreed we would go before we came here. So we don't remember that. Our consciousness isn't sure, but our soul knows. Our untamed wild soul said, hell yes, I want on that whitewater rapids ride of soul evolution. I am a hell yes to that. Right? And so, we might surrender and we might ride it like a cowgirl. Actually, some of both of that feels really good to me. It feels really good to get on the horse and ride and say, all right, let's go. What else do you have for me? I don't need to sleep. I can sleep when I'm dead, right? Or I'll sleep in October, but I definitely am not sleeping in September, is what it appears to be. And so we can have fun. We can have fun with it. And we can make fun of our crankiness and our stuckness. And we can cry together at our losses, at our belief that we can't be whole without something that we really wanted or needed, or that made us feel in control and happy. We can mourn the loss of that, and we can revel in the fact that even with the loss, we're still whole. We're still here grieving. We're still actually whole and complete. And we can become curious about the mystery of the possibility of, without that old construct, I wonder what is possible. I wonder what new creations are waiting to be birthed into existence. I wonder what edges will be pushed to explore, right? In California, we've talked about the water shortage for a very long time, but what really is getting done about it? A lot of rain dances, a lot of prayers being said, but I don't know that there's a huge change in the water consumption or the, the carbon output, or, and who better to lead that charge than our enlightened brothers and sisters that are already so dedicated to these higher evolution energies. They're going to actually have to do something, right? And they're the most poised in our country to have that occur. The density out here in Ohio is like, we're not getting on that train until Armageddon. People here are just not going to be in that conversation. They're not going to make changes that save our planet before it's too late. And so who? So who will do that? And what kind of pain, what kind of cataclysmic experiences will be required for us to wake up out of our sleep and say, all right, now's the time. I can see I'm being called into action. No more of this. There's nothing I'm doing that's more important than where I'm being pointed right now. And I don't know what that is. For each of us, it's a whole different thing. And I get curious, when my husband and I were talking about the ascension of our friends, and we were reading through this article about all of the things aligning and my sign and the 11th, and he just kind of instinctively reached over and grabbed my hand, and he said, I think I'm going to tie you to the ground on that day. And I said, that may not be a bad idea, because I don't actually know what's happening. And I am not actually attached, right? I'm not attached. And I think that's what's a little scary for him, and certainly for my family, is, whatever I'm being called to, I'm going. And I don't have a sense that I'm being called away from here. And it's very freeing to just be up for the ride, just be up for the ride. I feel like that's part of the download for me is, what could happen if I wasn't afraid? What if failing wasn't even a concept? What if I was just able to be and do all that I am and show up in complete service of the guidance that's leading me, that's aligning these stars in this particular way we've been remarking in magic school about how perfect the stars were aligning. The way that I run magic school is the way I run my life. There is no agenda. There's a very loose vision of where we might go. And then I just show up and navigate the energy, what's happening in the collective, what's happening with the guides who are aligning the work. And then I show up and I say some things. And you could not plan the perfection that has occurred. So, just various things happened so that God Week got pushed off a few different times. And then it occurred right as the solar eclipse was happening, which was all about, being with divinity and reconnecting with God and source and spirit. And then we're actually finishing magic school a couple days before this whole completion moon, right? Where we move into this brand new cycle. And so they're graduating at the threshold of stepping out into the world, right? I didn't know any of that. I didn't know that when I plan these things. And I don't have to know it, because there is a bigger plan that is more complex and intricate and beautiful than I could deign to dream up in this earthly body. I certainly had a hand in dreaming it up before I came here, right? And I like my work. I really like my work. And, what I desire for each of you is that, that as you surrender to these energies, as you hop on the horse and ride and remember your untamed bronco ride and wrangling self, that you can have fun with it and that you can feel yourself returning. This is yourself returning. This isn't something scary that is unknown to you. This is where you come from. And you're having a portion of it returned to you as a gift for what you've been walking through, for what you've been holding, for what you've been clearing, for who you are, right? That's what we're being met with. That's what's kissing us back open and making love to us and having its way with us. Yeah. So much grace and beauty. And so, my sisters, I invite you in this moment to move. Move your body, stretch, discharge any energies by just allowing yourself to meet the earth, to meet the ground, to meet the sky. Feeling the loving hands that are there just to take from us anything that's not ours. We aren't diminished. We aren't contracted. There's nothing to be done. All really is so, so well. And we'll just stand here together, clutching hands when we need to, hugging when we need to, laughing and loving all the while, until grace reigns here and in all the realms, now and evermore. And so it is. Love to you.
We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination, for God's sake. A revelation, for God's sake. An inspiration, for God's sake. Illumination, for God's sake. For God's sake. For God's sake.